Hi, I'm Brandon Honsalek with Debt Freedom, Georgia. I'm a bankruptcy attorney here in the Metro Atlanta area, and I wanted to take a moment to give some information based on the CARES Act and this whole coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, and cover some of the things that I'm getting a lot of questions about right now with regard to people's personal finances. So I'm going to go over a few different topics and give you maybe some recommendations. Of course, I wouldn't be a very good lawyer if I didn't tell you this is not at all legal advice, and you need to contact your attorney to get your own legal advice. All right, small business relief. So now I'm going to talk about the provisions of the CARES Act that deals with small businesses. And you may not actually think of yourself as a small business, but if you are self-employed, if you normally get paid with a 1099, if you're a contractor, if you have an LLC, if you have a corporation, if you basically work for yourself in some form or fashion, then this is going to apply to you. So there's a couple options. The first is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL. This is going to give you $10,000 that you can use for payroll purposes. And this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The CARES Act provided for it, and you apply directly at the SBA's website. So go to the SBA website. I'll put a link down in the description, and just go ahead and put in that application. It's going to ask you for things like your annual revenue. It's going to ask you for a few different things, but it doesn't take very long to fill out. Most people should be able to fill it out themselves. And you fill this out, and then as soon as they release that money, we'll start getting a $10,000 check. Those of us who have applied, and I'm saying us because I applied, we're going to get that money, and that will be some much needed relief to keep us open, keep our doors open for the next couple of months. So I highly recommend that you go ahead and apply for that right away. In terms of when is the money going to come, it's hard to say. They were supposed to apply, I think technically, legally, they were supposed to provide it within 3 days of the application, but that is not happening so far, but we should see this money start flowing before too long. So some of the details of that. You can actually get more than $10,000. The $10,000 part is a grant. If you use it for the reasons that they want you to use it for, which is essentially payroll. And these two different types of loans both basically have the same provision, which is you need to use it for payroll. You can use a little bit of it for utilities and rent and some other things, but mainly you want to use it for payroll. So to stay safe, I would use that money for payroll. So if you get this $10,000 EIDL, then you can use that for payroll, and provided you give them proof that you used it to pay yourself or pay your employees, then you will have that $10,000 forgiven. Next, we've got the Payroll Protection Program loans. So these are a little bit bigger and slightly more complicated of a program. And the documentation that you're going to need to provide for these is going to be a little bit more than the EIDL, but definitely something worth applying for. So these also are available to any of you who is a self-employed person, you own a business or whatever, and you're in a position where you want and need to pay yourself and your employees. So the Payroll Protection Program, you don't apply through the SBA, you actually apply through your lender. So this is a time where hopefully you have a good relationship with your bank, whoever your bank is, and you're going to want to go to them first. So wherever it is that you bank and you've got a business bank account with your business name on it, that's the bank that you want to go to and fill out this application. I went ahead and did it with my bank. They opened up an online portal. I was able to go in. They'll have an application. You fill out the application. You submit everything you need to submit. Now, how much money do you get? Well, it's determined by the income, or not the income, your payroll, or the amount that you were paying either yourself or your employees last year. So you're looking at calendar year 2019. What did pay look like in 2019 for you? So let's take an example. Say you're just self-employed. Maybe you have an LLC, maybe you don't. You're just self-employed, you work for yourself. Say you're a remodeling contractor, something like this. And you essentially paid yourself the equivalent of $60,000, however you paid that. Whether you did it through some sort of payroll, 1099, W-2s, it doesn't really matter how you paid it, except for the time frame of when you can apply, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you paid yourself $60,000 for 2019. Well, then on average, that's $5,000 a month. So the Payroll Protection Program loan provides for 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. So for you, it would be that $5,000 was your average monthly payroll. So you multiply that by 2.5. That means $12,500 is the amount that you would get for this payroll protection loan. And yes, it is a loan. It has that term loan. But it works the same way as the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, where as long as you use it for what they say you can use it for, then it's going to be forgiven. So it's basically a grant. It's free money, as long as you use it in the right way. So you're going to get $12,500, and then provided in the next 60 days after you get the money, you use it for those expenses, which again, I recommend payroll. Use it for payroll. There's a few other, you can use some of it for rent and utilities and stuff, but I would just use it for payroll. Use that money for payroll for the next 60 days, prove to them that you did that, and then that's gonna get forgiven. So this is a huge, invaluable opportunity. Anybody that's self-employed, has a business, definitely needs to be applying for this, and hopefully you get it sooner rather than later. Now, something important about the interplay between the two types of SBA loans, the Payroll Protection Program loan and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you can't get both of them. So if you do apply for both of them, which is something that you probably should go ahead and do, you're going to have to pay back one or the other. So I think Congress envisioned that you would get the EIDL loan first, and then maybe get the PPP one second, but who knows how this is going to play out. But if you did, say you got the $10,000 first, then you applied for the Payroll Protection Program loan, you got that second, well, you're going to need to pay back that $10,000 of the EIDL, and you can't just use all that money. Or eventually you're gonna have to pay it back at some point. And again, with that EIDL, if you get more than the $10,000, you go ahead and apply for beyond that, you can use that as a loan. And you just have to eventually pay it back by its terms. Now, timing. There's been a lot in the news, a lot of different reports about how the delays are on this. I do not know if anyone has actually gotten any money from this yet. As far as I can tell, nobody that I know of has. However, they are doing everything they can to expedite this. I understand there have been technical issues. I think the SBA's database or website program or whatever crashed yesterday. I heard that in the news. So obviously this is a massive rollout, and I would just say be patient, don't worry. The laws are in place, the money's going to come. They're even saying if the first round of funding runs out, they're going to get another second round of funding. But this is really unprecedented. This is the federal government essentially paying half the people in America their wages for 2 months. So it's a big undertaking, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get it underway. And the banks are doing, as far as I know, everything they can to roll it out. So I expect here within the next week or two, we're going to start seeing this money start moving. But go ahead and get in line, get your application in. There was one little caveat that if you're self-employed and you're not being paid with a W-2, whether you're a small business and you're paying employees or not, If it's not W-2 income, then you're going to have to wait until April 10th to apply. I went ahead and applied anyway. I would recommend you go ahead and apply. We'll find out what happens. But technically, I think, you know, for self-employed people, April 10th was the day that you could start applying, which is tomorrow, Friday, for those of you who are watching this when I recorded it and released it. Yeah, that payroll protection program for self-employed people will be available April 10th, so you should go ahead and try and apply by that time, if not earlier. And then we'll see what happens. But I think there's hope here. I think this money will come at some point here in the near future, and it will allow you to, like I said, make those mortgage payments, make those rent payments. Now, let's talk a little bit about other issues, and so just sort of more generally about what to do as we're coming out of this situation. This is obviously having a massive impact. There's going to be massive ripple effects through our entire economy. We're already seeing them based on this COVID-19 pandemic. And inevitably, you may find yourself in a position where you just can't make all the payments. If you were already in a substantial amount of debt, this is just really making it much worse. So here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Bankruptcy is always an option, and for many people, it can be a really good option. Bankruptcy has the potential of completely wiping out all of your debt and getting you that fresh start. So I've had clients before in the past where they've been out of work for 6 months, they've been out of work for a year, or they had a major medical issue that, you know, was thousands and thousands of dollars and really set them back. And these people were able to come through that, wipe out all that debt, and get a fresh start. So one thing that you can always keep in mind is that credit cards, medical bills, those things should always be your lowest priority payment because those have the potential of being bankrupt. So I would focus and prioritize making sure you put food on the table, you take care of your basic necessities, you make those mortgage and those rent payments. And you know, if it gets through, you may get a little bit of temporary relief here from the government, but then it takes you a little while to get back into that job, get your business going again. Just don't worry, it will happen. That income will come back. But if you ended up accumulating debt during this period, always consider bankruptcy as an option. Go see a bankruptcy attorney. I offer free consultations. It doesn't cost you anything to talk to me. There's really no reason not to talk to me and at least get your options. Even if bankruptcy is maybe not a good option, I'll let you know that and I'll give you your other options. But I haven't ever had somebody come to my office to where I couldn't give them options for hope for their future. So I hope that this will be something that encourages you and lets you know that there's always hope. There's always an opportunity for your life. There's always a plan for your life. And if you need any help, I'm here. So feel free to give us a call over at Debt Freedom Georgia.